All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Jayhawker podcast. My name is Nate Bukaty. It's great to have you with us, and it's a great time to be a Jayhawk right now. There are wonderful things happening with the women's soccer team winning a Big 12 championship. They're going to the NCAA tournament. The volleyball program is still headed in the right direction right now, and they're having a great season with some big matches coming up as well. And, of course, basketball season on the men's and women's side is tipping off as well. But right now, we're going to focus on Kansas football with head coach Lance Leipold.
This is the Jayhawker Podcast.
And we are presented, as always, by the University of Kansas Health System, by Black & Veatch, and by the next generation 10G network, only from Xfinity. The future starts now. All right, Coach, welcome. I say welcome, but I'm visiting your place right now. Thanks for having me in your building. It's great to see you.
Well, it's great to see you, Nate. Thanks for being here. Hopefully you have a chance to kind of look at a lot of the new additions that we've made. We're really proud of what's been done here facility-wise, the commitment our administration has made, and we're excited about what the future will bring with this. There's
a lot there, and driving to this complex today, I mean, the evidence is all around you. There's construction everywhere. And I was talking to some of the people on your staff saying that when you're here on a daily basis, it seems like the construction's happening fast. Every day, something new's coming up. What's it been like working in an environment like that this year?
You know, it's really been it's something special, something I'll always remember because, like they said, because they've worked many long hours, 6-7 days a week around here, you'll drive in early in the morning and they're going at it, and you'll see something when you're leaving at night that just got done that you're like, wow, they're moving fast, they're hitting their timelines. And it's impactful for our young guys because, you know, our guys have been displaced a lot, having to move around some of this construction, but they've been able to see the benefits of some of the things that have been done already, and it makes it worthwhile, and they understand the process.
One of the things I had a chance to do last week when I was in town was visit the Preview Center. For those of you that don't know, by the way, if you're a Kansas fan and you're interested in really finding out what the stadium's going to look like and what the ticket options are and all of that, there's a Preview Center right across the street from the stadium on the east side, and they can show you around. They've got virtual reality videos that make it seem like the stadium's already built and you can really picture it. And, man, it's exciting. Yeah. It is exciting to get to see that. Are you hearing a lot of response from people about what they're expecting?
It's been really an exciting venture that they're doing, and you can go in and look at the premium seating, look at different club seating options, all those things, or regular sight lines, like you said, will be. And as this gets closer and people come by, you know, it'll continue to come into reality. The thing that I see from our practice field when we're out there every day is really how much closer the seats are going to be to the field. In today's engineering and architecture that goes through this, the steepness of the stadium, how much closer it is, usually, you know, your seats kind of go back. This will go more up. I think there won't be a bad seat in the house, and it'll be really exciting for our fans.
Yeah, the Preview Center actually does a really good job. You can do a swipe thing where you see before and after, like what the vantage point is, the sight lines. And I do think it's gonna bottle the noise in better. Yep. It's gonna make it a more intimidating environment.
Well, that was one request I had when they talked about what we were looking for in the stadium. I said, a lot of talk gets into what capacity is and things like that. You see a lot of different things happening in professional sports as well as about size of stadiums these days. But my thing was something that was going to help us create a home field advantage and something that would help keep noise in. And I think they've done a great job with that.
Okay, so let's get into the program building a little bit. We can narrow it down to what you've got going on this year in a moment, but it's been evident to me as soon as you got here, things were changing. And obviously we've seen the results get better, bowl game appearances, competitiveness in games and all of that. And obviously the process is still ongoing. We're talking about the brick and mortar type stuff as well. But the first thing that a coach has to do, whatever the sport is, whatever the program is, to me, is establish a culture of what this program is going to be about. And I'm curious for you, how did you find that part of this, trying to establish your culture here at the University of Kansas?
Excuse me. I think the biggest thing that we've done at really all our stops when we've come in as a staff is you kind of get a quick lay of the land of where it's at. You get some background, but it's still the same type of blueprint from one time I was a Division III head coach to Buffalo now to here is the daily expectations of accountability, effort, attitude, being where you're supposed to be and trying to be the best version of yourself. And there were some growing pains during those times just based on, a lot of coaches do things differently, and there's a different set of expectations of smaller things. I look at a lot of things that we're able to establish of expectations that, some of our players were like, at first it was a little eye-opening, but once they saw it and bought into it and saw some of the results, I think they saw the improvement on and off the field.
So I'm looking actually at the words that are on the walls here: pride, relentless, believe. Are those in all the rooms around here?
Yeah, they are. Those are our pillars of our cultural blueprint and things that we believe in about being relentless and going about things, having pride in what you're doing and leaving it better than you found it, and believing in really yourself and everyone else as we go through this. But there's different ways that we go through that each and every off season with our players and hit it again as we go through the season, different aspects. But those are some foundational things that we've tried to do to make an impact. And again, like I said, it's nothing magical. Everybody's looking for some type of way that you're doing things. But I think at the core, what we've tried to challenge our guys to do is be where they're supposed to be, giving it their all and trying to be a better version of themselves today than they were yesterday.
I geek out on this type of stuff because I feel like I said, when you see coaches that establish cultures, the pillars that use it, a coach has to have some things. This is what we stand on. I'd like to explore these, if you don't mind, a little bit. Relentlessness can mean a lot of different things, but I'm thinking about relentlessness from the standpoint of, through good times and bad, when things are going your way or when they're not, you keep going. You never relent. You never stop. That seems to ring really true with the way this season's gone.
Yeah, it has, and I think there's one of the words that, like 20-some years ago, I can remember being at Nebraska, and that was one of their words for the season. And I always said, the time I became a head coach, if there was something that, you want to be told that your team's well coached and your kids play hard and all those different things. But I always said, if there was a word, if somebody told me that the team I was responsible for was relentless in how they go about it, I'd be awful happy and proud of that. And again, when some of the things that, whether it be on the field, like I keep saying, or off the field, because Nate, I do believe there's been a lot of things that we probably emphasized more than maybe others did prior, not good or bad, just in our way of doing it, of that when there were the same expectations for being late or missing an academic appointment as there is about missing or being late for a weightlifting appointment or session, that there were the same consequences. And when our players found out that everything that was tied into being a student athlete, that relentless attitude to be the best version was going to be held to a standard, I think we improved. And one of the things that I've seen is that we've had some of our best semesters academically in this program's history based on just some of these small expectations. But with that, you see young men grow as people when they do better in the classroom, their personal self-confidence of that I can do that, their self-esteem rises. They're able to they communicate better on the football field. They walk around differently around the building. And not every person comes into a university setting with the same foundational skills as everyone, but once they've had a chance to experience success and do certain things, and the same thing is when guys get stronger in the weight room, their personal confidence comes up. When they buy into the nutrition program and they see their body weight and their bodies change, whether it be through gaining weight or maybe gaining muscle mass versus fat, all these different things have helped our players gain confidence and understanding. And really, I guess then it goes into buy-in, and then you start seeing some of those results.
I would assume that has a knock-on effect as well if you have upperclassmen who have already experienced the success in all those areas you just mentioned, and you've got some new kids coming in. and they hear from the kids above, no, if you do this, it's going to work.
And that's where leadership comes to be so important in our program. And when your program can become a player-led program is when you have your best chance for success, because the standards then are really held up by the players saying, no, this is the way we do it. When you're a player-led, when you're a coach-led program, you're usually struggling to establish the baseline when the coaches have to do all the leading. But when your locker room can start holding each other to the standard, that's when you have a chance to make the biggest gains, and we've been able to see that in our program.
I'm curious. I'm just thinking. There's so many correlations from coaching to parenting, and I have 3 kids, so I'm thinking a lot about lessons I can learn about how to parent my kids better through talking to you in this. But one of the things that I struggle with a lot is my children are being raised in a society where everything happens at the push of a button. They don't even have to wait through commercials when they're watching television and things like that. Is it harder to coach people to be relentless today, or is it the same principles as always?
I think there's a lot that we talk about, but I do think we say like today's kids or society today, because instant gratification and knowledge of what's accessible at a fingertip it's unique, it's different, but there's still ways to reach young men to understand about that there is a process to go through things where, like in recruiting, everybody wants to play right away. Everybody expects to play right away, and then sometimes there's kind of that point of understanding that in order to get on the field, I need to do this, and this, and I need to do this better. But I do think in today's world that we have to provide opportunities for everyone to see that at the same time. There are some things, though, that because of today's world that you have to explain that it's not instant success all the time, and not everyone's going to see it immediately.
Your team this year through some really frustrating moments, right? I mean, obviously you've been good enough to win all these games, but they didn't go your way early in the season. Yet we're seeing, knock my microphone, I get so excited here, but we're seeing obviously that they have been relentless. They have continued to fight, and now they're getting some of those results. And I'm just kind of curious, in your lengthy career with all the success you've had, how would you characterize this one in terms of that challenge of keeping going while you're dealing with some of those frustrations? Well,
definitely as a head coach, this is probably my most unique and in many ways challenging season to date because of some of those things that were there, the preseason expectations and the lack of results that showed from that time. But at the moment, though, it's I go back to things that we've talked about with our guys for a long time is we don't know what 3 to 5 plays can make a difference in a game, but it usually happens in some capacity. You can learn this moment, but we've always talked about when those have happened, that when they happen, it can swing a game. I said, we've had some big wins in this program. There was in our game against Oklahoma a year ago when we upset them, Oklahoma probably had a chance to run the clock out and didn't, and had a chance, and we got the ball back and went in to win the game. If when things turn our way, we forget what the other team did sometimes that might have given us that opportunity, and it kind of balances out. The thing that we did talk about through our frustrating times is we could point to something in all 3 phases of the game, usually every game, that we didn't do something well enough to win the football game. And our players saw it, they understood it, they accepted it, and they kept working. Because that's the funny thing is you just don't know when it is going to flip for you. And we have a long way to go yet with 3 games to go for this to put itself in a better position. But we've shown the flashes, and we have the opportunity to do so down the stretch.
That leads me to the next word on your pillars, believe. You want to correct mistakes. You want to learn from mistakes. I feel like sometimes there's a risk if you focus and obsess over them too much, you can let those mistakes compound. How do you balance that, learning from those 3 plays that maybe didn't go your way with at the same time making sure the team still believes that?
Yeah, it's an unwavering belief in the process is what we talk about. What we've talked about, those steps of what you have to do on a daily basis to improve, to do it, to see it, to work at it. It goes back into the details of fundamentally, whether it be taking care of the ball, it could be tackling, it could be communicating and getting lined up correctly. There's a lot of different things that those are, but believing that if you do those things, good things are going to happen is part of it, and I think our guys have done a nice job of it.
Okay, so this big win against Iowa State at Arrowhead Stadium, you've already discussed this a little bit, but I want to go back to that 99-yard drive, the response to that from your team. Did you know that was coming, or did they show you something like, hey?
No, it was they got hotter on us right away. We had a first play, we got them backed up at the 1. We don't get lined up correctly defensively. They had 6 offensive linemen on the field, and we misread it, and we left the middle of the field kind of open. They get 5-6 yards on the first down. Then they get hot and go down score, and it's like, you kind of get in that. Are we in one of those scenarios again? But for us to, I think, between Jalen, our offensive coaching staff, Jeff Grimes, we stayed aggressive throughout the whole day. Jalen made a heck of a throw to Luke Grimm to answer it really quickly. And right back then, you had a chance to neutralize their drive with a quick strike, and it really kind of paved the way for us for the day.
You mentioned something to me in an interview we did on the radio about not having all the full complement of your wide receivers when you're practicing in the spring, I think it was. And that also calls to mind this group of wide receivers has got to be amongst the most electric that I've ever seen in my time as a KU football fan. And now that you've got most of those guys out there, how enjoyable is it to coach that position group?
It is. They're a talented group, and they complement each other really well in what they do. We have 5 seniors in that group, which is really unique. But, we lost Lawrence Arnold last spring to a broken foot in the first spring practice. Quentin Skinner was injured right around the 4th of July this year and didn't really return till mid-August or so to working out. Jalen was on a regulated throwing program, and we really limited his 11-on-11 work. There were some things there that just slowed us down, and probably, it's my responsibility, probably a miscalculation that we didn't have enough timing and work. Some of that you can control, some of it you can't, and we probably didn't have it enough where we took the abilities of Jalen Daniels in his past and probably made some assumptions that it would click sooner than it would for all those guys being on the field together and all that. But it's good to see us play really. I think for about a month now, our offense has played some pretty good football.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear. I mean, you can see against some good defensive teams too. You've put up these performances.
Yeah, Iowa State was a top 15 defense in the country. I thought we had a good day against a good Kansas State defense as well. But the challenges will keep coming as we finish this out, and hopefully, we've keep continuing to take care of the ball, not hurt ourselves with penalties, and find a way to keep this offense clicking like it has been.
One of those challenges is coming up at BYU. They're trying to keep that undefeated season going, so that's always going to be a difficult team to face. You've referenced a couple of different times this week the interceptions that they have and how many different people are getting those interceptions. When you watch, is this the type of thing they've got some ball hawks in the secondary? Do they create so much havoc in the backfield that it causes you to be loose with the ball? What are you seeing?
Little bit of everything. They are very physical and aggressive defensively up front, and they've caused some pressures, and they've had some secondary players make some outstanding plays, and they have quite a few guys that have been able to step up and make plays for them. There's sometimes it might be a deflected pass that a defensive lineman or somebody gets his hands on, and sometimes give credit to their Kalani Sitake, their head coach, and their staff for when teams get on a good roll. They have a way to make a lot of things happen. SMU's a really good football team. They went to Dallas and beat them, and I think held SMU to like four or five field goals, and that's a really explosive offense. So when you see some of the things that they've done, they were very opportunistic against Kansas State and things that kind of really got on a snowball for them to take a big lead. And the home environment there in Provo is going to be something that we'll have to battle and something we got to be ready for.
You've also referenced that they said after they played in the Big 12 last year, they realized we got to get more physical. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest memories that I have of last year's season was the Kobe Bryant hit, scoop, and score against BYU. That was a physical play. How different do they look in that regard to you this year compared to last year?
They're you can tell, bigger, more physical. You can tell when teams making an emphasis on some things. I'm sure. I just went back and was watching last year's game. There's parts of that game that I thought they were still a pretty physical football team and very aggressive. They're sound. They don't beat themselves. There's an understanding there within their scheme that they do a really good job. So it'll be a really good challenge. But I think when you watch them on film, they whether it be in their run game, whether it be defensively, I think they're one of the more physical teams we'll play all year.
I think you guys have already shown, regardless of the opponent, it's going to be a game. It's going to be a game, and it's going to be worth watching. Late, we got to stay up late. Yeah. How do you pass the time when you got that much time in the hotel on the road?
Yeah, that's one that a year ago we went out to Reno and played University of Nevada, and that was one we had a later kickoff, and our players kind of talked about, took a little while to get going in that game. We played pretty sluggish, so we've looked at some things that we're going to try to modify in our schedule a little bit to give them some time off their feet, but kind of regulate the day just slightly different, that hopefully we're in a good position to adjust the clock, that they're ready for kickoff, and I know they'll be excited about the opportunity. A
lot of exciting things going on with Kansas football right now. Coach, thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it today.
Well, thank you, Nate. I enjoyed it.
All right, this is the Jayhawker podcast. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to lay out for you some of the other things coming up in Kansas athletics this weekend. Of course, the Kansas football team taking on undefeated BYU late on Saturday night as well. Right back after this on the Jayhawker podcast.
You scroll, tap, swipe, text, call, and do a lot more on your phone. None of us can fathom life without all the world's knowledge in our pocket. We use phones for just about everything. But when it comes to doing the bigger things, like streaming, gaming, and working, you shouldn't be limited to just your phone screen or mobile plan. You see, millions of Americans don't have home internet. They're forced to do everything on their phone or through their mobile service via a hotspot. Or they go to public spaces and use unsecure Wi-Fi, which can be problematic when dealing with personal or sensitive information. You deserve reliable home internet to fit your life and your budget. And right now, Internet Essentials Plus from Xfinity is free through the Affordable Connectivity Program. Get unlimited data and equipment included with no annual contract. Go to Xfinity.com/free to see if you qualify. Restrictions apply. After program participation ends, Comcast standard charges, taxes, and fees apply. May not be combined with other offers.
I had this patient. His cancer treatment had him in the hospital for a while. One day, he was telling me about his grandson and how a big night was coming up for him. So we arranged to make it a big night for my patient too. I sometimes wonder if I'm doing all I can. Then I help make a moment like this possible, and I know I am.
All right, back to wrap things up on this edition of the Jayhawker podcast. Our thanks to Kansas head football coach Lance Leipold for joining us. I want to remind you that it's been a big week for Kansas athletics, particularly involving the women's soccer team. Congratulations to them. They got a win in the Big 12 championship in Kansas City, played at CPKC Stadium, which means they're on to the NCAA tournament. They'll be taking on St. Louis University on Friday at 7 o'clock, and you can watch that on ESPN+. Now it's time for our play of the game. Brought to you by the Hilton President Hotel, the only hotel in the Power and Light District, just steps from T-Mobile Center. Over 200 rooms and suites to choose from. Call 816-221-9490 or online at presidentkansascity.hilton.com.
Nothing's ruled out. He missed it. Carolina can go for the tie. Here they come. They'll bring it down the right sideline. Act like they're going to take a timeout. The play on. Cadeau to Washington. Back to Cadeau. Guarded by Hunt. Forces up a three. It misses. And Kansas will win. Beware of the fog, but believe in yourself. now tied winningest of all time.
How about that finish?
You can rock. Chalk it up. Win number 590 at Kansas.